Hi, and welcome back to C-Squared Artistry. My name is Candace Claiborne, and you are watching the Pregnancy Playlist. This is video number 5 of this series, so if you have not seen these videos from the beginning, please go back to the introduction, which you can click right here, and so you can see what this series is all about, and be sure to get caught up so you can join us back here for video number 5. Today's video, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about what to do now that you are pregnant. You have finally conceived. Congratulations. Now, what is it like? What do you do? Symptoms, feelings, thoughts, processing, and all of the above. It's going to be fun, so be sure to grab something to drink, sit back, relax, take some notes, and get ready for the fun part of pregnancy. All right, so welcome back. Today's video, as I said, we're going to be talking about what to do and how to kind of process through the fact that now you're finally pregnant. This is typically a time where you're so excited, you're glad that you're finally pregnant, you're grateful you've conceived, but things are kind of interesting. I'll say this, for myself, it took me a little while, maybe about 4 weeks for it to really sink in that I was pregnant. For the longest time, I was just continually kind of like, unsure. I had the pregnancy test that was positive. I had gone to the doctor. At that time, I think I was 7 weeks along. And so that's typically around the time between 7 and 8 weeks where you can go to the doctor and they will confirm for you that there's actually a little baby growing inside of your womb. I had gotten a ultrasound, so I was able to see the baby. We were like, okay, this is really real. But nothing really changed about my physical body, and I just didn't feel different. I didn't feel pregnant. So essentially, it was kind of like a dream. And it took me a couple weeks after that first doctor's visit for it to really begin to sink in. There were a few things that were flowing through my mind. Well, maybe I'm just really late for my cycle. And so, as ridiculous as it sounds, it was like every time I went to the restroom, I was constantly thinking like, okay, maybe is my cycle coming on? I don't know. And God began to show me through a proverb I had read one day, Proverbs 11:27. And I'm going to read it directly out of the Bible for you guys because it really just opened my eyes. It says, "Whoever diligently seeks good seeks favor, but evil comes to him who searches for it." Now, in this particular context of pregnancy and what I was experiencing, that scripture spoke to me. And what I took away from it was, if you are looking for bad, if you're looking for that cycle, if you are looking, unfortunately, for a miscarriage because you're scared, and those are just real things that I felt. You know, I was wondering, okay, maybe my cycle is actually just really late. Or, oh no, are we going to miscarry? And it was always like I was looking for it, like wondering if it was going to happen. And when I read that scripture, I was immediately convicted in my heart and comforted to know that if I seek good, I'm going to find favor. You know, favor is going to come. But if I look for evil, if I look for the negative, then it's going to come and find me. And I began to think differently. Like, I'm not going to go looking for all of these negative possibilities. Instead, I'm going to believe that we are really pregnant, that the pregnancy is going to sustain, and that all is going to be well. And when I began to change that mindset, I began to have comfort in my heart for the next the duration of this pregnancy. And so if you are currently pregnant or you've recently found out that you're pregnant, yes, the M word is like so big. It can be in your thoughts. It can be scary. It's kind of like when you first get married and maybe things aren't going so well and it's like the D word is like, oh my gosh, are we going to get divorced? Are we going to be able to do this? It's like that, but for pregnancy. And so I was encouraged by reading that proverb because it encouraged me that I have to be careful about what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for evil, it's going to come find me. But if I'm looking for good, then I'm going to find favor there. And I'm grateful and fortunate to say that I have found favor in this pregnancy. Our baby is still growing and she is healthy and strong. So today I want to just go through a few things with you. As you go through that process, know that your body may not change immediately. When I envisioned being pregnant, I envisioned this. If you can, I envisioned a belly. I envisioned being really big. And I didn't envision having my same flat stomach. And I honestly didn't start feeling those common pregnancy symptoms until, gosh, I guess maybe about week 9 or so is when things really started to like kick in. And some of the symptoms that I had was nausea, and sometimes it was coupled with vomiting, but most of the time it was just nausea, like all day long. I just felt icky. I felt sick. But the Lord began to show me that when you know why something is happening, it's going to help you to process it. It's going to help you to manage through it a lot better. So nausea, for example, is something that I experienced a lot. And my mom got me this book, and it is called You Having a Baby, and it's by Dr. Oz and Dr. Rosen. And it's a really good book. I've enjoyed it. It's a lot. So it's not like I have read the whole thing. I just kind of picked through topics that I was concerned about. And this particular section talked about sickness, talked about nausea. And it really walks through a great diagram. I love that this book has so many really good diagrams because I'm a visual person. And so it helped me to see that that nasal cavity is directly connected to the smell and taste center of your brain. And right below the smell and taste center of your brain is the vomiting center, the area that's going to make you want to gag. And so learning about how the body is actually physically constructed really gave me greater insight. In addition to that, I realized that vomiting and the nausea was actually a form of protecting my baby, because of certain bacteria or certain things that I may have been ingesting that was not safe for the baby. And so it's the body's way of naturally rejecting those things. And so when you begin to get a better understanding of what's happening and why it possibly is happening, you can start to understand it. It doesn't make it any easier, but it does help you to really get a better grasp of, okay, this is okay. This is a good thing. I remember my dad and one of my aunts were saying that to me, like, if you're sick, that's good. It means that the baby's in there, something's happening, Don't see it as a negative. Embrace it and know that it's a positive experience. Easy to say when you're not the one feeling sick all the time, right? Anybody can relate to that. But they were totally right. And I realized that there were things that I could do to help prevent the nausea. One thing that you can do is try to eat foods that are cold as opposed to hot foods or warm foods. When foods are hot, the smell and the odors are really strong as opposed to when they're cold. And so that's a helpful tip. The other thing too, I realized that if I started eating earlier during the day, then that was going to help me. And eating more frequently, eating smaller, more frequent meals. I'm the type of person that I could get up and go throughout the day and not eat typically until like 11 o'clock. But being pregnant, you can't do that. And the Lord showed me that that is just the beginning of me learning how to become a mother, learning that my baby comes first, that even for me in my, non-pregnant stage, I felt fine like going without eating. But when you have another child that you are considering, another human being, you have to think differently. It's not all about you. And so I began to realize like, okay, I have to prepare a little bit more, which also meant that I couldn't just rush out of the house to run an errand or, head to wherever we were heading without preparing. I had to make sure that I had my water bottle full and ready to go, that I had my snacks packed and ready to go. I couldn't just get up and go. And when the baby comes, you're not going to be able to do that either. You're going to have to be prepared, have things planned out. And so these things that you experience during this time of pregnancy, these symptoms, these things that are maybe a little uncomfortable, they're preparing you. They're preparing you for motherhood so that you can actually begin to readjust and align your mindset. The other thing that I experienced that was probably the most awful, annoying thing ever was a super heightened sense of smell. I am talking like bloodhound, like scent of smell. Like I could smell everything, and everything that I smelled disgusting. I could not be outside. I thought, oh my gosh, this city, because we just recently moved to Phoenix from DC, I thought it stinks out here in Phoenix. Oh my goodness, I can't stand it. I could smell the restaurant food. I could smell smoke. I smelled everything, lotions, even my husband's body. At some points, the way he smelled was like so not appealing to me. It was strange. And it sounds bad, but it happens. And so you have to learn how to be very gentle with your words. People's perfume, it was just horrible. And I began to seek out the smell, just like the scripture I mentioned, the Proverbs 11:27. I was looking for it. Like, I would smell something and I would like, oh my gosh, where's it at? Where's it coming from? And again, the Lord, light bulb went off and the Lord showed me, if you're going to look for it, you're going to find it, right? And you already know that what you're smelling is not pleasant. So why would you go and investigate even further to locate that thing or to identify what you already know is a gross smell? And most of the time, it's not something you can pick up and throw away. It just is like exists in the air. And so one thing I will say is that instead of going out and trying to find every little thing that is making you sick and that smells awful, you just know it exists. You know it's there. Like, you gotta like get over it. And one way that I did that was I began to put baking soda in little dishes, and I would put them all around the apartment, and it helped to absorb the smell. And I didn't do that until like months later, and my mom was visiting and we're like, oh, why don't I just put baking soda in a little dish? Duh. And it worked. So that's one thing that I did. But sense of smell was really strong for me and really quite annoying. The other thing that I want to mention to you guys is that this time around, during this part of your pregnancy, you may also experience some changes in your sex drive. And for some of you, you may have a heightened sex drive, and for others, it may be a little bit more on the low side. And so you really want to be conscious of that. Try to communicate. A lot of times when I was feeling sick or feeling nauseous, I just wasn't interested. And so learning how to communicate that to your partner, to your spouse, so that they know that it's not them, that there's just other things going on, is really important. And in the same breath, making sure that you try to make as much effort as you can to really get up and go with it, be a part of the experience. You don't want to neglect your spouse. Okay, so communication is really key. And there's plenty more that you can research about positions. It's not harmful for the baby, and ways that you can still remain really nice and intimate with each other even during that time. So as I was going through all of these experiences with the nausea and the super heightened sense of smell and being affected with my sex drive, these were things that were really bothering me, and I felt so out of it. I didn't feel like myself at all. I did sleep, but I slept a lot before pregnancy, so I didn't really have like a dramatic increase in sleep or exhaustion, but that's something that tends to happen for some people as well. But as I was going through some of these symptoms, I didn't feel like myself at all. And ladies, I'm telling you, it was hard for me to even remember what it felt like to be normal. And I missed being normal. I missed feeling like myself. And I felt kind of sad about it. And part of me wondered, like, oh my gosh, will this ever end? And thank God it has ended. I know for some women, they experience some of these symptoms all throughout the pregnancy. So even if you experience that throughout the pregnancy, just know that it's going to end. It's not going to be forever. But I was so just like, I felt so sad and defeated, like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can handle this. And I will tell you something. If you're a type of person that struggles with completing things, you start it but you don't finish, and you procrastinate or you just put things off, this is the one thing, ladies, that you cannot stop on. You have to complete it. Once you start, you got to follow it all the way through. And for me, it has been a huge life lesson of how to follow through, not giving up, knowing that you can do it. And just knowing that there's a time for everything, and this is just a season. And we know that it may be tough right now, but it's going to end, and it is for your good and for the good of your baby. So don't feel bad about going through what you're going through. Just be very present in it, because it will end. The other thing I want to say is that you should really try your hardest to acknowledge those good days. There were times where I felt really good, and I just felt a little bit better than the day before. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge it and be grateful for it. Like, oh my gosh, today is a really good day. I feel good. I don't feel nauseous, or I wasn't nauseous all day, or I didn't vomit, or whatever it is, and really embrace those moments. And then be sure to speak honestly. If there's somebody that you can confide in, speak honestly about how you're feeling without complaining. There's a difference between complaining and whining and just sharing an honest experience of how you're feeling, okay? And lastly, Find people that are pregnant or who have been pregnant who can relate to you. But again, being cautious to guard your mind, guard your ears and your heart so that you're not taking in negative feedback and negative experiences, because people will try to put that stuff on you. So make sure that you are surrounding yourself with a positive group of people to encourage you. And things like taking your vitamins, eating the right foods. If you mess up and maybe you forgot to take your vitamin one day or 2 days, like, don't beat yourself up about it. Take it as soon as you forget. You know, try to set an alarm. Do things that are going to be helpful for you. Don't beat yourself up. You know, there are going to be things that you eat and then you read an article and then you're like, oh no, I had turkey meat yesterday or whatever. And you're going to have to just, you know, move on with it. Know that God is God over all things, that He is able to be with you and with your baby to protect you, and try to make the best decisions that you can consciously. And if you make a mistake, if something happens that you didn't mean to do, then just trust and pray and ask the Lord to cover those areas for you. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. Be sure to subscribe because we will have some more videos coming up in this playlist that you do not want to miss. And thank you so much for watching today. Share it, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.